The listing coordinators take care of all of the listing process from the time the property is listed until it goes under contract. It's important to know everything that they do to get your listing marketed and under contract so that you can help make your process go smoothly and efficiently. One of the first things that the listing coordinators do when they get your listing is they go through all the listing paperwork and make sure all documents were received and all documents have initials and signatures in all the correct places. If any documents are missing, they will request them from you as the agent. If any initials or signatures are missing, they will request them via electronic signature directly from the client. There's a couple of important things to point out in the listing paperwork. First, on the data input sheet, anything that has an asterisk or a plus sign next to it is a required field. Make sure that these are filled out. If they are not filled out, the listing coordinators will not be able to enter the listing into RAIN. Also on the data input sheet, there are areas where it allows you to choose, for example, 3 items or 6 items on the feature sheet. Note that this is the maximum amount of choices that are available to choose. Do not choose more than that. It will not allow them to select more than what the selection says it allows. In the remarks section on the data input sheet, make sure that you remember it is limited to 300 characters maximum. Make sure you're paying close attention to how much you're putting in these sections. It will not allow them to add more than what that is allowed. In the agent remarks section of the data input sheet, this must have the company verbiage first. For the company verbiage, it should say the following. For showings, email showings@chantelray.com from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to get a live response. If you do not get an immediate response, please call 757-216-5796. For questions about the property, please email the agent directly. If this verbiage is not included, the listing coordinators will have to add this, and it should again be in the first part of the agent remarks. Lastly, on the data input sheet, the disclosure section. You should always mark that you have a DPOR as a disclosure, but make sure all other appropriate disclosures are selected, like short/comp sale if you have a short sale listing. If your property is in a homeowners association, make sure that you select the POA disclosure, and there are several others that you may require. Please pay special attention to these. Once your listing is turned into the listing coordinator, they will immediately contact the photographer to go out and take pictures of your property. The photographer has 48 hours to contact the client and set up a time to go and take pictures of the property, to get them edited and turn them back into the listing coordinators to upload into RAIN. If this 48-hour deadline is not going to be met for any reason, the photographer will let management know right away so that the listing agent can know and get involved if necessary. Here's a tip. If the date the listing agreement is for a day or two after you've actually signed it with the client, let the admin know and they can get the photographer out to take pictures before it's listed so that the pictures can go in as soon as the listing goes live. It's important that we meet this 48-hour deadline because after 48 hours, the listings start to feed out to Zillow, Trulia, all the other third-party websites, and we want to make sure that there are pictures in those. The next thing that the admin do is they will enter the listing into RAIN. When they go into RAIN, it will allow them to search by the property address or the tax ID number. This will pre-populate some fields to make the time a little bit less that they have to put in the listing. As you can see, everything in red is a required field. It will not allow the admin to enter the listing if any of these fields are missing. Like we spoke about before, as you see in these drop-down menus, these are pre-populated items. There's nowhere for the admin to make a change or to enter something that's not listed. So make sure you select only what is applicable to your property and don't scratch off or add in anything extra. If all paperwork is turned in with nothing missing, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes maximum to input the listing into RAIN. If anything is missing, they must stop to call, email, find you to figure out what should go in that field. This can delay them up to an hour, which means your listing is losing time on the MLS and you're losing money. Make sure everything is turned in correctly so that your listings are entered quickly and efficiently. Also, make sure you have your mentor review the listing before turning it in to make sure it's correct. This will avoid any delays in getting your listing into the MLS. Once the admin enter your listing into RAIN, they will add the pictures. After the admin have entered the listing into RAIN, they will upload pictures. If you would like to change the order of the pictures or upload any additional pictures, you can do that. You do that by going to the property, going into the details. On the left-hand side, you'll select Edit Record. Select on the tab labeled Images. You can change the display order of the pictures by clicking on the button called Change Display Order. You can click it, drag it, and move it where you'd like it, and click OK. You can also upload images by clicking on Upload Images. Next, the administrative staff will assign your lockbox to your property. While on the listing, they'll click on the left-hand side, Super Key Box. Then they'll click on Assign Super Key Box. They'll enter the serial number and shackle code and click Save. This now assigns that to your listing. You can also view the showing report by clicking on Showing Report. It will show you anyone that has shown your property. It shows you the date and time that they showed the property, which agent showed it, their phone number, and which office they were with. This is why it's very important to make sure you turn in your serial number and the shackle code of your lockbox. After this, they will email the listing agent and the seller a copy of the MLS for them to review and approve. Make sure that you approve this right away or send any corrections so it's entered correctly, how your seller would want it. You need to go to brokermint.com and log in. There will be a login button. When you get to that, you're going to click on the Forgot Your Password. Put in your chantelray.com email address and have them send you your reset password instructions. Once you do this, you'll be able to set up your own password, and then you can go back to the login area and sign in. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. When you sign in, it'll sign you into your office. So if you're in the Virginia Beach office, you'll see a logo that looks like this. If you're in the Newport News office, you'll see a logo that has this with the Newport News at the bottom. You'll see your pipeline, so it'll tell you how many listings you have, how many pending transactions you have, and if you've closed any this month. All of your closed transactions are in here. However, they are some of them had the incorrect close date, so they may not show correctly. So starting now, going forward, the closed volume should be correct. If you click on the listings button of your pipeline, it'll show you all listings that you have. If you click on the pendings, it'll show you all pendings that you have. Closed, it will show you all closed, and so forth for each section. You can also click on transactions on the left-hand side here, and it'll show you, you can search by, if you have property address, you can look and see any transactions that might have that property address. In order to create your transaction, you're going to click on the Create Transaction button. You're going to select which type of transaction it is, so if it's a regular sale, an REO, or a short sale. You'll select if you're submitting a listing or a contract. Contracts are pending. And which side you're representing. Are you representing the buyer or the seller? You're going to enter the address, city, state, and zip, the price. So I'm just going to enter a pretend one here for you. If you're submitting a listing, you'll want to put the listing entry date and the listing expiration date. This is the date that it's supposed to go in the MLS, and this is the date that it's going to expire. If you're submitting a contract, you're going to put the acceptance date, this is the ratified date, and then the date that it's supposed to close. You're going to put the total commission percentage that you're supposed to receive for your transaction for either side, whether you're entering a listing or a contract. If you're submitting a listing, the additional fields required will be your serial box number, do you need a yard sign, yes or no, what the rain shackle code is, what the CBS code is, and any showing instructions. I'm also going to add a section, if you need glam pictures, you'll say yes or no, and it'll also have a section that says if you've sent the pictures to the listing coordinator, yes or no, so she knows if she's gotten them yet. If you're entering a contract, the following red buttons will be available for you. You have to fill in the red or it won't let you submit. So you'll need to pick the buyer's closing agent. So you'll pick one of our preferred vendors or other. If you pick other, you'll need to enter their information. If you pick one of our preferred vendors, then it's easy. It has all of our preferred vendors in here for you. If you see any selections on here that you may need to add that we haven't added for you already, please let me know and I'll be happy to add that. This is where you're going to enter your lead source. That's required on both listings and on contracts. Then we're going to hit next. It'll automatically assign you as the transaction owner, and it will give you 100% of the commission. If you're splitting the commission with someone, you can go ahead and enter them in here as well. Otherwise, you're just going to keep yourself as the main person. Then once you do that, you'll be able to hit create. Once you hit create, it's going to give you a field that looks like this. It has all the information filled in that was requested of you. It also has contacts. All you'll need to do next is to add your contract or your listing paperwork via email. So you'll copy this information, go into your email, paste it. You can delete everything that's in here, attach the document that you want to submit, and hit send. Once you do this, it automatically puts your document right into the transaction so that the coordinators have it all ready for them. That's all you need to do to submit your contract or your listing to the transaction coordinators. What they will do is they're going to add their checklist to it. So whatever checklist that they need to add, they're going to go ahead and add that in here. Once they do that, it's going to populate the checklist for them to go ahead and process your transaction. They will go in the document section, and under unsorted, once the email comes through, it's going to pop it in here. Here it is, the one that we sent in. They'll be able to see this. They can split the document into separate documents in here. You can also use this if you ever need to get a document out. You would just put like page 1 to 2 is buyer contract. Or let's call it buyer rep. Page 3 till 4, and you can kind of scroll down and see what's next. And it tells you which pages are which, and you can name all of these. Once you do that, you can hit split, and it splits the documents up from this one huge PDF into several small PDFs. So if you ever need to pull just one page out of a PDF, this is an easy option for you to do. It separates them. You can email the document right from here. So if you needed to send it to someone, you could send it to them. You can include any other documents that you have in your documents folder. You can write them a message and send it. You can also download it as a PDF if you ever need to save it. Once it's been assigned, once they assign a checklist, it'll have all the documents that are required for this, and they'll all load in here really nice and easy for you to see. Under users and contacts, you can add users and contacts. As you'll see in here, when you start to type in different things, it will enter different people that have automatically been entered into the system. Once someone's been entered into the system, they save in here and you can easily select them. So if you need to add your seller's name, you can add your seller's name. So let's just do Joe Smith. And they're the seller. And you can add them, so it adds their contact information. And then if you want to add your transaction coordinator, you can add in transaction. Let's do, so you can add Catherine in. It adds her as a transaction coordinator. It'll assign her as the transaction coordinator so she can then see the property. Under activity, you'll be able to see anything that's happened to the contract. So any emails that are sent out, any notes, anything that's made on the file is put in here. You can also add notes on the file. If you want to add anything and add it, it'll put it in here so that this is kind of like an electronic paper trail of what's happening with the file. Then when you go back, you can go into the reporting tab and you can see reports. I can see by everyone's name, but I can look in here by different agents and see what they have going on. Pending, closed. We can also see lock boxes and yard signs. I can look by agent. We can see closed sales, all kinds of different things. If there's a report on here that you'd like to see that isn't added, you can just email me and I can see if that's something that they can add on there. Last but not least, the calendar. This is something that you can look at to see for any of your transactions. You should be able to see any of the tasks that your transaction coordinator are using on there. And again, back to the overview under pipeline, this will show you your listings, your pending, your closed. They've added a new feature called library, and I'm uploading some different things in here. As you'll see, I've already uploaded our listing presentation in here. If you are ever out on a listing presentation, you can click on here to listing presentation and you can download it. You can also click on it and it'll open the listing presentation right here for you. So if you are out and about and you need to do the listing presentation, you can go through it right here in Brokerment. I'll be uploading some other important information for you guys that you'll have right here that you can use that's easy for you to grab. And again, that's under library. So the most important tabs that you're going to use are your pipeline, transactions. This is where you can create all of your new transactions. This is where you'll enter the information. Once you're in the transaction, you're going to hit add via email and you'll copy to clipboard and email the documents right in here to the transaction. The coordinators will then separate it out and upload it to the proper tasks once it's assigned. You can check out reports. You can check out any activity that you've done. You can see library, any documents that we've uploaded in here. You can check out your calendar. Contacts are held in here. And that's pretty much all you'll need to know. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to come see me, email me, call me, and I'll be happy to walk you through the process. But starting tomorrow, Wednesday morning, we like to see you start adding your transactions in this system so we can get caught up. You may notice a few of your newer transactions are missing, but that's okay. We're getting them added here shortly, but the majority of your listings and transactions are already here in the system for you. Next, they go to Zillow. They find the listing and they claim it as ours. So to make sure that we show up as the listing agent so that we will receive all of the leads from this. Do not claim the listing as yours. This is a company lead and we claim it as a company. They will then go to Trulia and do the same thing. They'll find our listing and then they claim it as ours so we show up as the listing agent. They also go to Facebook where the virtual tours are posted and they boost them so that they will hit certain target audiences. It increases the number of likes, shares, and views that these properties are receiving. After the property's been on the market for 7 days, we do a 7-day follow-up call. We ask if there were any additional corrections to the MLS. We check and make sure they were happy with the pictures that our photographer came out and took. We double check if there's anything else we can assist them with that happened in the first week of their listing. Once a month, we do a once-a-month seller call where we check in with them and see how things are going, see if they have any concerns, if they need to speak with an agent. If there's anything that we can help them with, we double check this during this time. Anytime something needs to be changed in RAIN or the MLS system, you must use a listing change form. There has to be a paper trail, so if you ever get a listing reduction or a verbiage has to be changed in RAIN, you must have seller permission from that. That can be in the form of a text message, an email message, but it must be in writing. The listing coordinators are going to ask you for this. A great idea is when you're at the listing appointment to get a blank listing change form signed by the seller and yourself that you turn into the listing coordinator. That way, if anything needs to be changed, they have a blank listing change form already ready there that they can help fill out for you. Another great idea is for you just to sign a listing change form that they keep on file. They're happy to fill out these listing change forms for you if you give them that information. These tips will help you make sure your listing process is run smoothly from turning in your listing paperwork till when your property goes under contract. Once your file goes under contract, whether it's a listing or a new buyer, you then hand it to the transaction department. The transaction coordinators are here to make sure that your transaction goes through smoothly from under contract to closing. The first thing that the transaction coordinators do when you hand them your file is they go through all the documents to make sure that all documents were turned in and all have the correct initials and signatures in the right places. If anything is missing, they will contact you and let you know. A few important things that they check for. They check to make sure there's a ratification date and the ratification box has its signature. They make sure that the EMD section is filled out. Who is holding the EMD? They double check to see which side is holding it and make sure that has been filled in. They make sure that all buyer and seller signatures and initials have been completed. If it is ratified and something is missing, for example, a common item that is missed is agents forget to put in which side is holding the EMD. Once it is ratified, you cannot make any changes on the actual contract. It must be done in an addendum. For instance, if you did miss putting who is holding the EMD, you would just create an addendum stating Chantel Ray Real Estate is holding the EMD. The administrative staff is happy to create this addendum and send it out for signatures for you. They also double check to see when deadlines are for home inspections, termite inspections, POA doc contingencies, any type of contingency or deadlines that they may need to know about, and they set reminders for themselves to check in with you to make sure that you don't miss any of those deadlines. If you're turning in a contract in which you are the listing agent, our transaction coordinators will change the status in RAIN and add any contingencies that are needed. They will upload ListHub that you saw earlier so that the seller will stop receiving emails. They will update the showing instructions in Wolf Connect so that other agents will know that the property is under contract or any special instructions that you have for them. Special note, if you're turning in a contract for a listing that you have, you do not have to resubmit the Chantel Ray Real Estate disclosure, the client info, or the CDIF. The transaction coordinators will collect these documents from the listing paperwork. Weekly, the transaction coordinators will check in on your file. They're going to make sure that everything's on schedule, see if there's any issues with title, lenders, any inspections. They're going to make sure all documents are turned in on time, like PCRAs, termite inspections, appraisals. If you need any addendums written up, they can help create them and send them out for signatures for you. If you need them to schedule any inspections for you, they can do that as well. Just let them know. They're here to help you get your contract through to closing. Please use them for anything that you might need. Once we get within 3 days of closing, they start requesting a preliminary HUD. They must get them ahead of time. They look to make sure the commissions are correct, transaction fees are included if they should be. They're also going to send a copy to you to review as well. Once the property has closed, they will mark it sold in RAIN if we're the seller, and they'll notify RAIN that it is closed if we are the buyer. When turning in an EMD, make sure that you follow the proper EMD procedure. First, you will email emd@chantelray.com with the name of your client, the check number, the address, the ratification date, and which office you belong to and turning it into. Then you're going to drop the EMD check into the EMD drop box located at each office. You must turn in the EMD within 5 business banking days of the ratification date. Following these procedures will help your contract go through closing very smoothly, and the transaction coordinators are here to make sure that you get your property closed and can get on to your next client. If you are representing the seller and your property goes under contract and you need to submit the contract in, you do not have to do create transaction. Don't do that. It creates a duplicate transaction. All you need to do is go to the transactions tab on the left-hand side. You can search for your property by typing it in here. Once you find it, you can click on it. Then all you need to do is hit edit. You're going to change the status from listing to pending. When you do that, you want to update the price, and then you want to add your acceptance date and your closing date, and you'll make sure the commission is correct. And then you'll click on additional fields, and the same fields will still be required as when you hit create transaction. You'll fill all that in and you'll continue the same way, but you don't have to re-enter all of the information again. Use that same transaction. Just change the status to pending, update the sales price, make sure your commission is correct, enter your ratified date here in the acceptance date and your closing date, and then fill in all the rest of this and click continue, and then still submit your contract the same way by emailing it into your transaction. The only difference is you're not going to create the transaction like you were. You're just going to change the status of the one already in there. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.